the world only believes what the media tells them to believe, and I tell the media what to believe. It's really quite simple.
Why do people trust government and the medical establishment so easily, like no matter what? I think this is a boomer thing, because boomers have never seen in their lifetime a government that was visibly harming its own population. So from 1945 until the late 80s, I mean, boomers were born between just after the war until the early to mid 60s, I guess. But they enter the workforce in a booming economy. They've only known stability, certainty, and prosperity. You know, even low-level jobs paid enough to get by. You know, wars, famine, suffering, all these things happen in the third world. But the path was simple. It was, you know, you just turned up to work and you got paid, and that was it. There was plenty of bread, there was plenty of circus. Also, the West is made up of very high-trust societies, especially in Northern Europe. You have a stable and a prosperous society, along with people who naturally trust each other, which is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. And by extension, their governments. So when you have a media that has a monopoly on information dissemination, then there's the advancement of technology, giving people more reassurance and confidence that they're not going to, you know, keel over and die. Then there's the spiritual side. You know, as secularism has dominated the West, certainly since, especially in the last 50 years, the only authority left is the government. So people naturally seek some kind of authority. Even if they can't find one, they will construct one. So, you know, even for the, you know, the skeptics who don't trust the government, their authority will be themselves, you know, self-trust, self-love, and all that. So the de facto authority is the state. There's nothing wrong with that, but the state needs to be one that behaves morally, which we don't have. We have now is a secular state that's increasingly self-serving at the expense of its own citizens. And it's happening so slowly that people don't even realize it. You know, they're so used to believing everything that they've been told. So now what we have is a population of hyper-individualistic, docile, weak, and selfish citizens as a result of decades of liberalism. I mean, that's really what it is. You know, there's no real sense of unity anymore. Everyone's off chasing pleasures and dreams. Meanwhile, the government has been consolidating its power as the ultimate authority and implementing more control, more centrality, in order to preserve its position. I mean, really, that's what it wants. You know, most people make the mistake in believing government works for them, but it's the opposite. It really is the other way around. You know, we've got this illusion that our vote actually makes a difference, but instead there's this fake two-party system given the semblance of democracy, which is a scam. So another reason people don't like to admit they're wrong, too proud. They don't like to be fooled or misled. People like to think they know best and their decision was correct. So to admit you were led down the path or fooled somehow, it takes humility. So when you turn around and tell them everything they've bought into is a big lie, they would rather deny it and just hope they weren't tricked and played. Especially boomers, you know, they're older, so it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Too much for them to accept that their own government would want to hurt them. Red pilling a normie is hard because, other than what I previously mentioned, it's very dark simply to admit the truth, which just doesn't sit well with most people. Let's do a little thought experiment. You know, say there was this outbreak of some virus, you know, and it spreads to all countries. As a normie, you'd expect everyone to be on the same page in wanting to protect the public as much as possible, right? So that means you would assume the government's actions would be for the benefit of society, right? You know, after all, they are elected by the people to represent and work for the people, right? Wrong. While it might appear that way on the surface, that's not how it works. Government may have been voted, quote unquote, voted in, but they work for the oligarchs, who own all the big pharma producers who collude with them to enforce mandates. So if the oligarchs control the salaries of those in government, who do you think they serve? The people? Come on, give me a break. So accepting the fact that government and big pharma would conspire against their own people for profit and control is just too big a pill to swallow for the average normie who thinks the BBC and CNN are actual news. I mean, yeah, sure, you know, we all hear about conspiracies, but, you know, people just like to sort of brush it to one side and think, oh yeah, it's not real, it's just a conspiracy, they wouldn't really do that. When you actually show them, say, look, this is real, look at the evidence, it's just too much, you know, it's like Neo in the Matrix, you know, he breaks down, he can't handle the truth. to start with. Why would they do this to us? Why would the government want to hurt us? Because they are power-hungry control freaks, that's why. They need to reduce the world population because this would make it easier to control. It's difficult for a normie to understand the thinking of an elite, because a normie will never be in a position of any real power, so they could never understand. When someone has power, if they don't have the right morality, their decisions and goals will be entirely self-serving. They do not have compassion for other people, so they will either be indifferent or hostile towards them, towards the general population. Now, I'm not saying that everyone in power behaves like this. There are always exceptions. However, these exceptions are even fewer in a morally degraded society that we have now.